And I can tell you what, there are days I hope for you, because that's how far out we are sometimes. I'm sure plenty of you hire me and Marty and Jeff and all these other guys because they're your confidence. When they pull into a run and they say we're going to get one, you believe it. Because they've seen it 10, 20, 30 times, maybe that season. They believe you're going to catch one. That's your confidence. That's why you went with a guide. But why? What separates them? Going fishing, you provide yourself with the opportunity to catch a fish. Presenting the fly correctly at the right time presents the fish with the opportunity to eat the fly. All the best equipment in the world, if you can't give the fish the opportunity to eat the fly, might as well just throw it in the bushes. Go fishing. Spend time. Wasted time, downtime, broken shit, changing sink tips, all this stuff. Wasted time. I carry one sink tip, but I have 6 of them. Because I don't like to mess around. I don't like to think about it. As a guide, I can tell you right now, I can watch somebody cast the very first run of the day, and I know if they're a hunter or a hoper in the first 3 casts. Okay? First cast. Go ahead and start short.
Hoper.
Hoper. Why? You might have made a great cast. If I say add 3 feet of line at a time, and I know my Skagit line is 24 feet long, should have been 7 or 8 casts before the head went out the tip of the rod. That was 8 opportunities you missed. Anybody in the crowd ever done that? Ever just pulled out a bunch of line and sent it out hoping? Marty Shepard, you don't count. You know where the fish are. Jedi. So as a guide, I'll literally sit there with a coffee cup. If you've been out with me, you'll see. The guy that goes like this, and he takes time with that first cast, I'm already inspired. This guy may have even caught a steelhead before. This is interesting. And then you see him go like this. Right? I'm sorry to tell you, the boring aspect of steelhead fishing is if you standardize everything you do, when you have success, you know why. If you leave too many variables open for the fishing, for the opportunity, for the type of water, you have nothing to measure success on. Now, I can tell you I've seen a lot of fish caught on terrible casts, upstream casts, dead drift stuff, stripping the line in, everything else. Steelhead are kind of an erratic creature. At the same time, there are rules, there are variables, there are things you'll notice, the similarities in catching a fish here on the Sandy, catching a fish on the Clackamas, catching a fish in the North Umpqua, whether your fly is 6 inches deep or 11 feet. I bet if we could see the fish eat the fly is almost traveling at the same speed. I've fished a lot of different places. I've caught steelhead in a lot of places. Fish react to flies based on speed. I'd like to think they'd like to eat flies that look alive, but I don't necessarily know if that's true either. Does a bomber look alive? No. You ever seen a greenbutt skunk wiggle? No. But they eat them. The tempo of the fly coming across, broadside, downstream, all that becomes part of the river. Okay? You had a gentleman earlier talking about angles. And the angle to the cast to the river starts a fly fishing in an appropriate amount of time. You know, you saw yesterday Rich Zellman. He doesn't want to fish early. He's casting up, and boom, he's lining his line up like that. He's getting as much depth as he can. Geographically, where his fish hold, if he gives the fish the opportunity, that fly better be deep. Our fish hold at 3 feet of water. His are at 12. I'd like to say they come 12 feet to the surface. In the summertime they do. In the winter they do not. That is how he has rectified the fact it's tough to catch steelhead where he's at. So when we start short, and we go, and we fish the fly, and I always tell people until it stops moving. pretty easy. When the fly's not moving anymore, time to cast again. This is what I see. And it feels real good right there. Yep, kind of in a good spot. What happened? Oh, well, it was in the good spot, then it really slowed down on the inside. Phenomenal. If I'm a lazy fish, and let's face it, if we look at the places we catch steelhead, steelhead are lazy. They don't consume anything. All the energy they got for what they're doing is stored in their body. Do you think the steelhead really wants to hold up there? If I told you you had to run a marathon and couldn't eat for a month, how'd you feel about that? You'd be over here in the soft water too. All the places a lot of people overlook, the short casts, the insides, these are where our fish are. You know what hunters do? They fish the inside. I know a lot of guys, myself included, we make 2 passes in pieces of water. Or with each individual guy, we'll send them down at a different spot at a different time. You, I don't want you to wade further than this, and I want you to cast 40 feet of line. Believe it or not, this is the toughest thing as a guy to get done. 40 feet of line. That doesn't sound very far. That's right. The fish aren't far out there. Honestly, in this run, if I wanted to fish the other side, I own a boat. You pay me $500 a day, I would row you right over there and park you and let you fish that side. Another thing with long casts is it's almost impossible to get the fly to come all the way in. Anybody just jacked one out there and tried to fish it all the way to the hang down? It doesn't work. At a certain point in time, there's so little tension on the line, not even the current can bring it in. Floating line, sinking line, or otherwise. It's a waste. Now, I got all other kinds of things for hopers and hunters. The next thing I'd like to cover is fly anxiety. I've seen a lot of fly anxiety. You laugh. You laugh. I have seen guys show up with more flies in my boat than most fly shops carry. And they say, Travis, what fly should I get? Oh, God, what fly should I start with? It's kind of foggy this morning, the clouds are out. Honestly, I don't care. Honestly, neither does the fish. Most of the time, I drink my coffee, I point in the box, there is one, tie it on. The deal is, if you have confidence in the flies you fish, you will catch fish on them. If you look in any of your guides' fly boxes, Marty, how many flies do you carry?
2.
2 flies. Easy choice. No fly anxiety. One doesn't feel like it's working, you tie the other one on. Jeff, how many flies do you carry?
Way too many.
Too many choices or too many colors?
I got it all, but it's all to play the head game with him.
Oh, he feeds the fly anxiety. But the trick is, every single person up here I've heard has said simplify it. I'm with Marty. If I have a Ziploc bag and it's got 6 flies in it, we're probably good. Okay? Great. It's easy. Now we don't get trying to change flies all the time. Because the fish don't care. In extreme situations, cold water dormancy, warm water dormancy, we might have to change a few things with our flies. Not necessarily the color, but the size. Tie it on and forget about it. On the Deschutes lot, I get guys that say, I'd like to catch a fish on a skated fly. How do I do that, Travis? It's an easy answer. Tie the skated fly on and don't take it off till one's eaten it. It's easy. You know what happens? Guys tie the skater on, they fish from me to the log up there, and they go, "Whoa, haven't got one." It's hard. You got to stick with it. The hunters take the challenge of the skater and don't take it off for a month. If that is your MO, put it on. If you have goals, Simon Gosworth earlier today talked about having goals. His were casting. If you have goals in the sport of fly fishing, never set numbers. Numbers are depicted on runs. Set realistic goals in steelhead fishing. Not a single person here can make a steelhead eat a fly or not. Not one of us. But we can provide the fish the opportunity to do so. If I'm a guy who really wants to fish a skated dry fly, and have success at catching a fish on it, well, I'm not going to go out in August at 11:30 a.m. and fish till 3 and hope I've given myself a chance. Fly anxiety is a big deal. Casting short is a big deal. Taking time with every cast is a big deal. Not messing around when you get to your run. It's a big deal. Let's do simple math. I think most guys in the winter honestly fish 3 pieces of water, maybe 4. I've looked at a lot, guided a lot. The average guy fishes 3 or 4 pieces of water. Great. There's days I fish 14. Are they all massive runs like this? Nope. Steelhead runs don't have to be big to provide opportunity. 1,000 casts, how many count? 1. 1 cast counts. You know what cast it is? The shitty one. Why make them? If you're going to be a steelhead fisherman, if you're going to be in this game, I have a feeling you're going to make 10 million casts. Why settle for terrible casts? I mean, we all start somewhere. Sometimes you're fishing in places that are very difficult. Why settle for crappy casts? I want to fish, and I want to fish instantly. Now, on most rivers I fish, depth is not an issue. I'm not trying to get 14 feet deep. I choose my equipment accordingly to where my fish are. I choose my sink tips so that I can use the least amount of mends. Okay? What's the definition of a mend? What are you doing when you mend something?
Fix it.
You're fixing it. Example. Wasting time. Cast is broken. Not fishing. I can tell you when the line starts pulling on the rod, I am done fishing. Now, if I really wanted to be that deep, why didn't I just cast a heavier sink tip? Why just get a heavier fly? Simplifying everything is the best idea. Summer steelhead fishing is great, right? We fish floating lines most of the time. We cast. That's a mend. Line straight. Why can't you do that in the winter? You don't believe that black thing on the end is going to sink? That's why you bought it. It says it's even lined with tungsten. Tells you how fast it sinks on the package. It's an interesting deal. People buy their equipment to help it do what it does. Don't think I haven't seen that stuff. I mean, I'm not making fun of anybody, but it's a waste. Again, if I needed that extra stuff, I'd just choose different equipment. Most of you guys here, I bet over half the people in the audience own more than one rod. Great. Rig them both up. Heavier and lighter. Now, when we talk about fishing, I want every cast to do that. When I'm sink tip fishing, that's what I want. Why? So it fishes as quickly as possible. I want it fishing now. Again, I want to provide the fish the opportunity to eat the fly. If I wanted to watch myself cast, I'd go out and cast in the lake. A little devoid of steelhead, but just as effective if you're not going to fish everything. Honestly, if you make a terrible cast, do not fish it out. Guys that hunt steelhead, don't take this for an answer. Oh, the fly will come off. Yeah, when? 3/4 of the way through the swing? 1 fish a day, you're going to let that ride. Not a good choice. Not a good choice. Immediately, strip it in before it even gets to where the potential fish is. Take a look at this thing and see what I did. 1 bad cast. We're good. At least I know. The next thing you know is people throw a tailing loop like that, and you say, hey, you got any knots in your leader? No, I don't think so. Every cast must have been pretty good then. Yeah, that's all right. About 85%. Good. You know what? That 15%, that's where your fish was. I remember back in the day before I became a guide, I'd make handfuls of bad casts a day, and I try and live with them. And then when I got home and I didn't have a fish, you want to know what haunted me? That 15%, that 10%. And then when you get good enough at casting, presenting flies, to find out where the fish was, guess where he was? He was in that 10%. He was in the 15%. He was in the places that were difficult to fish. You know, as a guide, I wish every run was like this. Not a tree, pretty good current speed. You know, maybe we'd put a few more rocks out here. This is great. Back cast room forever. Shit, we could overhead cast most of the time. Even better. But that's not how it is. We're steelhead anglers. And steelhead like tough places. They like places that are difficult. You'll notice you always catch the fish 3 or 4 casts past where the trail ends, where most people get out. Providing the fish with the opportunity is key to everything. You don't need to mend. Mending is something you do in either extremely weird water, technical, or because you really trashed your cast. There's a million things you can do to make flies get deeper. You don't necessarily need to mend.